I wanted to open up and first welcome everybody. My name is Brandon. I'm Veahafta's COO, and we would love to welcome you to this very special virtual event, which is really built specifically with you in mind, our volunteers, specifically volunteers who have supported us on our outreach program and through our Make a Meal program. So why did we decide to host this event? Largely because you're amazing people. And it's really you as volunteers who ensure that our van and our outreach program in general continues to operate on a nightly basis. It's the volunteer service that is a critical component of what we deliver. The food that's been prepared is a legacy of our community that we've done for many years, delivering food to people who are looking for that meal. And while that van is out giving essential support, it's again because of your support that that service can exist, and people who are in extreme instability can survive. But we also felt, so if you've only ever volunteered through Make a Meal, making sandwiches or baked goods, or you've made blankets before, or you volunteered on the outreach van, you've seen not only one small aspect about what Veahafta does, but one small community of people who are in poverty. So our outreach workers, while people are serving on the van, are doing sort of three key things. So they're building these relationships with everyone they meet, and they're building trust. And within this trust, they have three sort of services that they can offer to someone beyond the goods they receive. So beyond the sandwich, the clothing, the extreme gear, everything they get, they have three key services. So one is harm reduction. So when necessary, they will support someone with substance use challenges, providing those harm reduction kits. So if you've seen before. Two, they'll make referrals and they'll make connections to other critical services. So this could be medical interventions, it could be housing support, it could be helping with identification, legal support. There's sort of a lot of things in terms of systems navigation that the outreach workers can do. And thirdly, they actually refer a lot of people into Veahafta's expanded services. So Veahafta has sort of three key services beyond outreach that we deliver. And we deliver this last year to over 300 people. And we have a goal in mind to increase that to well over 400 this year. So what are those services? So the first service is called pre-employment. So pre-employment service training or training services is the hard and soft skills that will help someone prepare to be job ready. So this could be anywhere from learning how to interview. It could be, in the case of the internship, how to learn to operate in a kitchen or in a warehouse facility. This could also mean learning things like conflict resolution, time management, controlling anxiety. It could be anything you need that's going to help you feel job ready. Second to that, we have life stabilization services. So these are the services that are offered by our case management team. So what does that actually mean? It's working with the case managers. The individuals in our program will create plans to address key barriers in their life, things that are the barriers to regaining that stability, often through needed for employment. And they're going to work on these goals. So the goals and these goals towards stability are really for either further training or education, again, surmounting to a career path, or because they need to get immediate employment. The final stop is employment service. Now, this is one of the newest services with Veahafta. Employment services is where we work directly with both the participant and with the employer. And that means we build relationships that lead to getting a job and ultimately becoming self-sufficient again. Now, why did we decide to do employment services? Why was this something that we felt there was an opportunity for us here? Not only the model in which Veahafta exists is very client-centered, and that means that we have the client's goals in mind and what they want to do to prosper, but also we have an amazing community. We have 1,600 volunteers on average every year. We have an additional 1,500 donors every year. So we said we have this amazing community of just over 3,000 people every year. Surely someone knows about a meaningful opportunity. And so we started to connect those dots. And we said, this makes a lot of sense to be in this realm. So what are we doing tonight? Let's bring it back. So tonight we have a really special opportunity. We have the privilege of introducing Ebony, who's going to be joining us tonight. Now, Ebony's journey went through the shelter system. It stopped into Wehrhafte and ultimately to where she is today, in a position where she's prospering. So you're going to hear from Ebony tonight, and how you're going to hear from Ebony tonight is you're going to be interviewed by Wehrhafte's top chop, our CEO, Cari. She is going to be helping guide our conversation. And after that, after the interview, there will be a chance to ask questions. So when you're ready, if you have any questions, please enter it into the chat box and we'll pose it at the end of the interview, either for Cari or to Ebony or to myself. And with that, I think it is now time to open the floor. So I am going to highlight our speakers. There's one, and there is two, and you two can take it away. It's all yours, Cari.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who's joining us here today. I want to invite you, if you're comfortable, to turn on your cameras. It's a lot easier. This is not a webinar like some of the ways that that's done nowadays. This is a regular Zoom call. We really want this to be personal, and I don't know about you, Ebony, but I find it easier to talk to faces. Awesome. Thank you, Randy, Isabel. Appreciate it. Josh, Diane, thank you so much. We really want this to be a conversation. Marilyn, thank you. Bruce, Eric, wonderful to have you here. Really, really happy to be here. And I'm very honored to be interviewing Ebony again. Ebony and I did a little question and answer last year at our AGM. So we are accustomed to each other, even though it's been a while.
Yes,
And
it has.
I'm really, really excited to have you here, Ebony, because the last time we talked was nearly a year ago. And I know that I am talking to you not from Toronto. And I'm really excited to hear if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what you want people to know about where you are today.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon or good evening. My name is Ebony Dorset, and I was born and raised in Nassau, Bahamas. But I've lived in Toronto for a little over 3 years now. I am a visual artist that works in the field of social work, supporting LGBTQ youth at youth shelters around the GTA, including Friends of Ruby and Ruth Lane. So basically, I bridge the two professions by utilizing a therapeutic arts certification, offering counseling and healing through expressive arts. And I'm currently at my very first artist residency, the Silkamine Artist Residency in Penticton, BC.
Very cool. That's really exciting. So I think the last time we talked, you had told us about the residency that was upcoming, and now you're there now. What an incredible accomplishment.
Thank you so much.
Really,
Yeah,
it's really
really
good.
proud.
It's really good. And you look amazing.
Thank you.
So I know that all of you have joined us today to really hear Ebony's story, because when you're familiar with Wehrhafte's outreach van program, which I know most of you are, you see people where they are, and our van program is literally meeting people where they are, but we continue with them. So we don't just meet people where they are and continue on our way. At Wehrhafte, we walk alongside them and stick with them in their journey to help them move from where they are when we meet them to where they want to go. And I think you can see from Ebony's glowing face that she's somewhere that she wanted to go, and that's really exciting. But maybe you could take us back to what your life was like before you connected with Wehrhafte. So, like, where were you living? What felt really urgent? What was your feeling around that time? And just share a little bit of that with us.
So life for me back then was extremely uncertain and actually quite scary. I had just moved to Canada and was living in a refugee shelter. I was sharing a very large room with about 50 other women. I was bed number one. And at the time, I had no connections, no friends, and very little prospects in terms of solidifying a future for myself here in Canada. I just knew I wanted to find my footing and I needed to find it quickly because I could feel my mental health slipping just due to the environment I was in and seeing the things that I was seeing. Um, so that was where I was at before the after came into my life.
Wow. And what was it like? Like, what was the shelter system like for someone who this was new to you, right? Like, had
Yeah,
you ever been to a shelter before?
no, and I never thought I would. Um, so it really took me by surprise, and I was just shocked at the things that um, just vulnerable women and men like me were being made to see, and it really took a toll on me, for sure.
Yeah, I can only imagine. It's really interesting for the folks who are joining us because for those of you who have been out on our outreach van before, or if you're at home doing the make a meal, I'm sure it runs through your head, like who are the people that Wehrhafta is serving? And, Ebony, you're so well spoken and you're so polished.
Yeah.
It can be pretty surprising for people to think about someone like yourself spending time as bed number one in a shelter in the GTA. It's pretty shocking, I think, for a lot of people. Raise your hand if this is surprising to you. Yeah, so a few surprises here. And it's really what you're sharing with us, Ebony, is really something that we always say from the outreach van and we always say at Bahapta, which is these kinds of turns and twists in life, they can happen to anybody, any person. And we meet people all the time, every single day, that people think that poverty happens to only certain people or homelessness happens only to certain people and that it is somehow something they did or ought to have done or ought not to have done. But in reality, we know that there are twists and turns in life that are not predictable. And just like you never thought you would ever wind up in a shelter, that's true for quite a lot of the folks that we serve. So, can you share a little bit about how you found Verhafta and what that experience was like? How did you hear about us?
So I was approached by one of the shelter supervisors at the time, and he asked me if I would be interested in joining a program designed for women like me. So women who were looking to make new connections and refine and build on life skills to gain confidence in themselves in a totally new environment. And he thought I would be a great fit after getting to know me a little bit. And he was right. It was exactly what I was looking for at the time. It was like a godsend.
When you decided to say, "Yep, I want to do this program," like what were you hoping would happen? Like what were your goals? What did you think that moving forward would look like for you?
So actually, while applying to Building Foundations for Women, that was the program I was in. I remember just being really impressed with the questionnaire itself. It touched on topics like mental health and personality traits and long-term and short-term goals. And it kind of allowed me to hold a mirror up to myself and to see who I was at the time and what I wanted to be. I wanted to become the woman I described in that questionnaire, somebody focused, confident, bright, creative. And I wanted to be able to stand on my own 2 feet and to trust the journey I was on. And I saw a vision of myself in the future and I wanted to run after her.
Wow, I just got chills when you said that. It's a really incredible thing to hear you say that and to look at you today. You made that a reality. It's incredibly inspiring because I know that everybody wakes up every Monday morning and says, I'm gonna this and I'm never gonna that, and this is the week. But we also know that that is damn hard.
It is.
So you said yes to the program, and what was it like for you? Like what happened in the program? What was the structure like? What were some of the things that you learned?
So the structure of the program was I was introduced to a cohort of similar ladies like myself, and it was structured in like a class-based programming. So every week we had a new topic. We had an online course that we would have to fill out. We were connected with amazing case managers. We were given laptops to work with, and it helped me so much just because every morning I had something to wake up to do. I had people to work with, and just everything we were learning was so important for me at the time. So that's kind of how the program was set up.
Amazing. And which kinds of supports, because there are a lot of different supports built into the program. There's financial support through stipends, there's digital support with a laptop, and a lot of support in learning how to use it for people who don't know. There's interpersonal support between the peers in the classroom. There's one-on-one support with your case manager, and there's the relationships that are built with the volunteers who actually facilitate the programs.
Yes.
So from all those different things, and it's quite a variety of different things. And then there's the actual learning, the content that is delivered by volunteer facilitators and
Mhm.
on such a wide array of topic. There's financial literacy and there's,
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of some of the topics, but what stood out for you out of all of those supports? Which one stands out for you now in retrospect as being really impactful for you?
I would say there was I think one of our first classes, there was a speaker who came in and she essentially laid out her entire life to us. She let us know that she used to work this really intense job, and she was doing pretty well for herself. And then she had fallen ill with meningitis, if I remember correctly. And she took us through her losing her job, her losing the ability to speak, and basic motor functions in her body. And she came from this really high-end job to basically having to work at Tim Hortons again. Um, and just the bravery and the emotional strength that she showed in that particular class, that one has stayed with me ever since. And that just, I think about that whenever I think things feel a little bit too heavy, or I can't do what it is that I need to do at the time. And I just remembered, okay, if she can get through that, then I can get through anything.
Amazing. And now you may not realize it, but as you're talking to us right now with some of the folks who are watching and listening to your story, they may be having the exact same inspiration. And there may be a time that any of us here listening to your story where things feel hard and things feel like it can't. And we're going to think of you, Ebony, and say, wow, if she could go from being bed number one to being where she is today, I can get through a tough day too.
Wow.
Kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it's insane to think about.
So, um, was there a moment where you started to see yourself differently or believe something was different, something was possible for your life? Can you remember like a moment, a turning point?
Definitely. It was actually during one of our final meetings with the cohort. And by some miracle, all of those beautiful women voted me to be the valedictorian of Building Foundations for Women. And I was shocked and honored, yet so humbled that they saw me fit to represent mine and their journeys there. It completely grounded me in the fact that I had something to offer this world and that people could see a light in me that I thought I had lost.
Wow. Gonna make me cry. I'm a crier. I cry at everything, but it's an incredible thing because so much of what we're trying to do at Hafta is really it is around so much of what you're describing is about resilience. And people throw that word around a lot. And so when a word is used a lot, it starts to lose its meaning. But it really is about recognizing that within us there is a spark, a uniqueness, something that only you, Ebony, bring to this world. And as a Jewish organization, we believe that every human being is imbued with this unique set of skills, talents things that make you you and only you. And that the flip side of being imbued with this is that every one of us has a responsibility to bring our unique set of skills and talents to the world to help make it a better place. And that's so much of what drives our work, so much of what we're trying to, achieve through the programs. There are the obvious things, jobs and stability and all of those things that people need. But it is also about that spark. And you're a person that has such a profound spark. Can you all feel Ebony's spark when she talks? It's hard to imagine you not seeing it. It's really remarkable.
Thank you.
So let's move forward and say, if you look at your life today and where you are today, what would you attribute to being different because you took part in the program?
Um, After the program, and if I look at my life right now I can say that I move through the world with the confidence that I gained during my program. Um, I have the skills of resourcefulness and problem solving for myself and others, and I can hold emotional space for myself and others. And I am more driven now than I have ever been to accomplish any goal I set for myself. I told myself I wanted to be housed, and I did that. I told myself I wanted a job doing what I love, and I did that.
Wow.
And I told myself that I wanted to find a community and friends that love and care about me, and I did that too. And just the feeling of uncertainty and confusion around my life, um, it's gone. It's totally faded.
Oh, wow. And when you look at what you've built today, oh, huge claps from everybody. It's so inspiring.
Thank
Um,
you.
when you look at something that you're building right now, um, what's something that you are building that you simply couldn't have imagined for yourself back then?
Um, that I'm finally putting my all into my art career.
Mm,
And I thought this was a dream or a passion that had died, and it seemed too big and too unachievable to the person I was back then. Um, I didn't believe in myself and in my work, and I thought that there wasn't space for what I make and what I have to say. And the fact that I'm sitting here in my studio and I'm creating work that defines me and my story and that I'm happy with is extremely exciting. And I'm looking towards new exhibition opportunities and making connections in the artscape. And I'm getting the validation that I have a place here.
amazing. That's really incredible. It's so interesting to me because I'm sure that everybody who's joining us notices that we haven't really talked about your living situation. We haven't talked about how much you earn. We haven't talked about like any of the things we think about when we think about programs like VAHAFTA's pre-employment programs. The purpose of them is to help people take next steps towards employment because when you're employed, that brings the ability to have stability in terms of your living arrangement because when you're earning money, you can pay for rent or purchase a home eventually, and it creates all of this stability. So we tend to talk a lot about preparing people to re-enter the workforce and are they employed at the end of it. But all of the stuff that you've talked about kind of that stuff is sort of incidental. And what you're really focused on is all the what we would call soft stuff.
Mhm.
And it really is all about resilience, right? Like connection to other people, optimism for the future, motivation and drive, like all of these pieces. And it's so interesting that, yes, housing, yes, employment, yes, all of these things. But when you're talking about these things that you've gained, you have this glow about you when you talk about them. What do you think about that? Like, how does that sit for you?
I think when you are in a place where you don't have much to your name and you are lost in a new environment and things are very uncertain for you, you tend to focus on survival. like you go into survival mode and the only things you're worried about is eating and where am I going to lay my head and how am I going to get money. And I think that um, after you've been able to find those things that kind of take you out of survival mode, then a whole world kind of opens up for yourself and you start figuring out, okay, well, who am I really and what do I really want and what really makes me happy? And I think when you get to that point in life, that's when, like you said, that's when you kind of start glowing because sure, like the job and the house is extremely important, but those things are a means to an end. What really makes you want to get up in the morning? Like, what are you really passionate about? What what special thing do you have to offer the world? I think when you can answer those questions and you can see that kind of unfold in your life, that's when you are truly, truly happy.
It's such a beautiful message because what I hearing what you're saying is there's a real spiritual wisdom to what you're sharing with us, which is we know that materialism is not the path to happiness. We know all of that stuff. But it's interesting because what I actually hear in what you're saying is it's all of the confidence, belief, optimism, motivation, all that stuff is first. And
Yeah,
then come jobs and houses. It was that true for you?
yeah, for sure, for sure. When I had the time and the energy to fully focus on myself, um, yeah, then I kind of started feeling like, okay, I can do this. Like I'm ready for anything.
Well, that's really, really cool. So we are Wehrhafte is a Jewish organization and we serve people of all faiths. As you know, what was it like for you to be supported by a Jewish organization? And what would you want people to understand about working with a Jewish organization?
So, my story is a little different in that I come from a background of religious trauma. And I was raised in the Black Hebrew Israelites, which is an Abrahamic cult.
Mm.
And I suffered gendered abuse and discrimination under the guise of biblical law. Um, and it shaped my view of Israel and faith in general. However, Wehrhafte has disputed my preconceived notions of what Jewish people stand for. And I was given support across multiple areas of my life when I needed it the most, especially. And I was never once made to feel less than or unwelcomed or incapable based on where I was at in my life and what I believed in. And I was seen for who I was and what I could be.
So how has that affected, like, how do you view faith now, like after, like in a healed perspective? So I didn't know that about you. That was something that I never knew about you, Ebony. So I appreciate you sharing with me and with everybody here, that trauma that you experience. So how does the Wehrhafte experience, where does that leave you today in terms of your feelings about faith?
Now I truly believe that God lives in each and every one of us, and we are to be judged by our work and the things of our hearts. And I feel as though once you're not hurting anybody, once you're helping people, once you live your life in an honest and meaningful way, um, I think that that's where God resides, regardless of religious background or what you believe in. I think once you're a good person in this world, that's all that matters.
Beautiful. Really beautiful. So let's say you were going to finish the sentence. Because of Wehrhafte, I.
Because of Wehrhafte, I can and I will.
Wow. You're awesome, Ebony. It's like
Thank you.
it's just so inspiring to talk to you and to just hear how far you have moved yourself and you truly stand out as an inspiration to me, and I think to everybody who's listening to you. Um, it really shines a light on what is possible for people when the stuff inside this, the most precious part of us, our hopes, our dreams, our belief in ourselves, and our belief in even the goodness in the world, because that can get lost too. And I usually say to people, when any one of us is having our worst day, it is hard to make changes. It is hard. For some people, it's hard to get out of bed. Like, how many people have had that experience? Like a really bad day, a really bad time. It's hard to motivate yourself to get up and make changes. And that's why so much of Wehrhafte's programs is focused on the you of you and all of the what are considered in the social services world soft skills, communication, connecting with others, making plans for the future, optimism, motivation. These are all considered soft skills, and so they're thought of as less important than this outcome of employment or enrollment in education. And obviously, we track both, but just in talking to it really highlights for me why the soft stuff is just so important, because you really need that in order to take those next steps and in order to make the journey that you have made. So we know that happily ever afters, that's not reality. That's not the way life works. In the future, there will be ups and there will be downs. What do you feel confident about in yourself for when difficulty, you're going to face more difficulty? I'm sure you have many things to get to where you are. What do you feel, how do you think you'll approach those things?
I think moving forward, if anything, and things will come up because that's just how life is. But I think that I will just keep in mind that this too shall pass, and I've seen, in terms of my story, I've seen some pretty hard times. Like, there were days I would wake up and I would just immediately start crying because I couldn't see the end of it. I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But eventually I got there. So I know within myself, if I can make it out once, I can do it again and again. And no matter what life throws at me, I have the skills now and I have the confidence now to carry myself through.
Amazing. And you just defined for everybody that is resilience. That is what resilience is. It's knowing that you've got the stuff within you that inevitably, sometimes life sucks. We know that. And knowing that you can navigate it, whatever life throws at you, you're going to know how to navigate it, and you will. And it's amazing. Ebony, thank you so much. I want to open the floor for people to ask you questions. I'm sure a lot of people have questions for you. And before I do, and before I give you back to the rest of the room, I just want to tell you how truly inspiring it is to talk to you and to hear your story. And I could talk to you 1,000 more times, and I'm sure I would each time learn something new about you as I have tonight. And I just want to thank you for your generosity in sharing your story with all of us, strangers to you. But you've really, truly inspired me, and I'm sure I speak for everybody on with us tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. I really feel like I have a second home. I think I have to I thank you for even having me here. I'm honored.
Thank you.
So I'm going to, again, say the floor is open if anyone has any questions. If you'd like to learn more, ask questions to Ebony. If you want to ask a question to Cari about our services, if you want to ask a question to me, I'm going to leave it open for a few minutes for people to share or to ask. And while I look for hands or while anyone types the question, I'm just going to share also that, and I know everyone in the room has sort of been volunteering or supporting Wehrhafte for various years, some relatively new, some for a bit longer. And I've been around now Wehrhafte. My first foray into Wehrhafte was in 2014, so just over 10 years ago, I guess 12 years ago. And I just wanted to help illustrate, how much, and again, because of our community, how much we've been able to grow. When I first got here, like some of you may remember, we had a single outreach van, which was really just a caravan, almost exclusively. There were no real meals. It was the sandwiches that often the volunteers would prepare beforehand, whether it's a piece of yellow cheese or peanut butter and jelly or a bagel and cream cheese. And we had an outreach worker and several volunteers go out and give whatever we were able to collect through our volunteers. We have been able, again, through the support of our community, to scale that into two much larger vans in operation. Our service has become exponentially more considerate to the needs of people who are in that deep level of stability. And again, this is because we feel that it's our responsibility in representation of our community to deliver these services. People don't always realize it, but for this van, which again has grown in so much time, is 100% supported by our community. This is not a government-funded program. It has never been a government-funded program. BHAFTA is almost 65% of its revenue comes from people who feel like they need to support the services we offer. Government is a small piece of that, a very small piece of that. And when I say this is really to illustrate that this is, I always say it's your organization, that we exist because of those 3,000 people every year who are helping and who are giving their time, who are giving their means, giving their energy, giving their goods. So thank you for that. Also in that same time, when we entered the organization 12 plus years ago, and actually now on 14 years ago, it was our first foray into pre-employment skills. We had our first VSA program, which at that point was no more than a dozen people, I believe. And now, again, we're looking at 400 plus graduates this year. So here's the thing. So since I don't see any questions coming up, I'm gonna close. But here's the thing. I want to just reiterate that your support as volunteers is so appreciated. It's so valued, and it's ensuring that the services that we're offering every day is the most helpful, impactful service we can deliver. But here's my ask. For something for you guys to consider before you go, as you volunteer, if you have the means, also consider making a donation. Specifically, the best way that I can ask for your support is through our monthly giving program. So there's just about 100 people every year who support us on a monthly basis. And the support that comes through our recurring gift program directly supports the outreach program. So being a donor as well as a volunteer is not only going to ensure the impact immediately, but it's also going to ensure that our outreach program has what it needs to remain critical for people experiencing homelessness for the long term. It doesn't have to be a large contribution. $25 a month, for example, is a very accessible way to give meaningfully without that strain of giving one larger gift. If you'd like to discuss this, I welcome you to be in touch. Otherwise, you can visit our website, vafta.org. You can go to vafta.org/donate, and you can become a monthly donor. If you want to speak with me, if you want to speak with my colleague Natalie, who works on my team, if you want to speak with Tama, who you might be familiar with in our volunteer team, we're all available for you. But just know that we're so grateful for the community that we built together, and we thank you. And we really couldn't do it without you, our community. So once again, thank you, Ebony, for sharing your time and your story with us. Thank you, Cari, for taking us through this journey. And thank you to all of you for taking the time to join us today and for your ongoing support of BHAFTA. Have a wonderful evening.